Down. The run for the PPG Cup now continues at Road America. From the beautiful Road America Circuit at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, the Indy cars and the Texaco Havoline 200. We have so many stories to tell today. We begin with Gary Gerald.
Paul, one of the amazing stories surrounds Paul Tracy and how he earned the pole position. Consider on Friday in a practice session, 180 miles per hour, down the backstretch, through the kink, something apparently failed in the rear suspension. The car nose first into a barrier. It sheared off the entire front end. But thanks to new rules this year that have strengthened and lengthened the footbox area, this Nigel Bennett-designed Penske held up beautifully. Tracy escaped any serious injury. A crash recorder on hand chalked up 44 Gs. That's an astounding number. 44 times Tracy's body weight on impact. Here's the steering wheel that was in the car. Notice how it's deformed. The deformation here is where Tracy's helmet against the restraints of the belts actually went forward and impacted the wheel. More astoundingly, he comes back the next day in the backup car. He knocks Nigel Mansell off the provisional pole, denying Mansell a precious bonus point toward the championship. Now, the problem for Paul Tracy here in the cockpit is to get comfortable because he's far from 100% physically. He greatly stretched all the muscles in his neck and shoulders. He has bruises on his knees, legs, ankles. It's difficult to break. He's got 200 miles to go. He's already astounded his crew by qualifying on the pole after that dramatic accident. Now he's ready to try to astound us all again and go the 200-mile distance. Paul?
So Paul Tracy will very definitely be a focus for the remaining 5 races of the season. He could be a spoiler in Nigel Mansell's potential championship. As we take a look at the points, Mansell is certainly the dominant power right now. But let's remember that most of his wins this season have happened on ovals. And the remaining races in the series, 4 of them are road courses. And Nazareth, while it's an oval, they still set up as if it were a road course. So Nigel Mansell very definitely has some problems yet to solve. For more on the Newman Haas team, let's go trackside and Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, it's a very special day for Newman Haas. It was 10 years ago today that Mario Andretti scored that first victory for Newman Haas. And over that 10-year period, they've scored 42 victories, more than any other IndyCar team. Right now, Nigel Mansell sits in the 2nd position and Mario Andretti in 3rd, partly because Mario is here testing and they found the balance on this car that all the other Lola teams have not been able to find. Now, in the morning warm-up, they were only 3rd and 6th, respectively. They'll have to see if they have that speed in the race because this team wants to celebrate that anniversary with another victory.
50 laps, 200 miles lie ahead. 29 cars have qualified for this race. A wonderfully full field as we take a look now at the starting grid. On the pole is Paul Tracy, who takes his 2nd pole in a row here after a savage crash on Friday. Alongside is Nigel Mansell, the PPG point leader on the front row for the 8th time this year. In row number 2 to the inside is Mario Andretti, a 3-time winner on this 4-mile road course. And Raul Boesel, who has 3 runner-up finishes in the 1993 campaign. In the 3rd row to the inside is Emerson Fittipaldi, the defending champion of the Texaco Havoline 200. And Al Unser Jr., with his best qualifying effort since the Indy 500. In the 4th row to the inside is Scott Goodyear, looking for his first win since last year's Michigan 500. And Robbie Gordon, his 2nd best qualifying effort of the season. In row 5 is Mark Smith with a 4th straight top 10 qualifying effort for a freshman driver. And Bobby Rahal, twice a runner-up in this classic event. In row number 6 is Arie Luyendyk, who has 7 top 10 finishes on this demanding course. And Roberto Guerrero, his first start here since 1990. And looking in the 7th row as we continue our look at the grid, Scott Brayton and Christian Danner is back in the Indy cars. Eddie Cheever and Teo Fabi in the 8th row. In the 9th row, Stefan Johansson and Mike Groff, who is driving the Lola, not the Ray Hall Hogan here today. In the 10th row, it's Danny Sullivan and Brian Till. Row 11, Hiro Matsushita and Willie T. Ribbs. In the 12th row, Robbie Buell and Adrian Fernandez, both rookies. The 13th row, Olivier Briard and Marco Greco. Row 14, Ross Bentley, the Canadian, and Buddy Lazier. And alone in the 15th and final row, it is Jeff Wood. Well, the engines are very close to start as they make their final preparations for the run at Road America. ESPN's coverage of the Texaco Havoline 200 is brought to you by PPG, world leaders in automotive finishes. By Suzuki, your Suzuki motorcycle and ATV dealer has the ride you've been waiting for and the financing to get it. And by Havoline, Formula 3 motor oil. Add more life to your car. Back at the beautiful Road America circuit, 14 turns, a little over 4 miles, the longest in the IndyCar series. Now let's go back 2 weeks ago to a 1-mile oval. They are still talking about the run in New Hampshire. The last laps of that race were some of the best we have ever seen in the IndyCars. The start saw Mansell and Bosell battle as Marco Greco spun, bringing out the caution. Nigel moved to the front. Paul Tracy fell to fourth, and Fittipaldi was barely in the race. But it wasn't long before the leaders were running in traffic, and Tracy was past Bosell. Tracy was now in what he calls the zone, his fastest moments. Soon he was all over Mansell, and then quickly around and into top spot. At the same time, Fittipaldi was making up for a poor qualifying and carving his way through the field. But trouble is always close at hand on a mile. David Coudrave crashed. Nigel went back to the lead of the race. Now the Penske pack chased Mansell through traffic. Fittipaldi went left. Tracy split right and then darted inside, taking the lead. Mansell quickly pulled up tight and began chase. As Bosell tried to claw his way back into the fight, traffic and turbulent air sent him to the wall, and a DNF for only the second time this year. The stage was now set for Mansell and Tracy as they made their final stop. Paul roared past the Newman Haas pit, and Mansell struggled with a bad right front tire. The Lion would fall back to third place. Still, it wasn't long before he flew past second place Fittipaldi. And then it was on to challenge Paul Tracy for the lead. The outside pass was beautiful. Mansell took the lead and the race and celebrated his 40th birthday, showing the world just how young he is. We'll all be talking about that run in New Hampshire on the mile for a long time to come. But, Derek, are you surprised at how Mansell's been performing on ovals?
Yes, I think maybe yes would be the answer. I think he's also surprised himself, not at the sheer speed, but I think at the consistency of speed he's able to show on these ovals. Now, can he win the championship? Absolutely. But I think his main contenders all year have been the two Penske drivers. But it's ironic that miscues by the Penske drivers, the crashes by Tracy in Phoenix and Milwaukee, and Fittipaldi's crash in Detroit, robbed that team of valuable championship points, making Mansell's task a little bit easier. But make no mistake about it, the Penske boys are still his main opposition, but he is not convinced that he can beat these Penske cars in the last 5 races of the year, which will open up a great championship fight for us all to enjoy.
Well, the engines have started and the field has just begun to roll away. 2 laps to the green flag at Road America before a record crowd here, maybe an all-time record crowd for the state of Wisconsin. We welcome race fans worldwide now to our coverage here at Road America, the Texaco Havoline 200, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. The field moving on the parade lap now. The look back from Nigel Mansell's car. One of our onboard cameras positioned on these Indy cars here this weekend. Danny Sullivan, not only an onboard camera, but Chevrolet engine technology gives us these data readouts throughout the race itself. Also onboard camera on the nose of Bobby Rahal's car. Many of the drivers say this is the closest view you can have to what it is like in the cockpit of the car. So the field now circulating around as they prepare their cars, take a look at the situation on the track. A cloud layer lies overhead. So the field is ready. And we have now just a little over a lap and a half to the green flag. Indy cars all prepared as we welcome our global audience here today. And the track here, a little over 4 miles around, 14 turns, Derek.
And it has almost everything here. Easy low-speed corners, demanding medium-speed corners, and some scary high speed. Lots of passing opportunities here. Speeds along the straight in excess of 195 miles an hour in qualifying. Here is one of the areas you hold your breath. The carousel. If you make a mistake here, you're in deep trouble.
Of course, this leads to a very fast section of the course down to the kink, and it's just around that bend that Paul Tracy had his problem on Friday, but still came back to take the pole. Now on the line here today, as we take a look at our race analysis, it is a 50-lap, 200-mile event. The race record 126 miles an hour, and Emerson Fittipaldi is looking for 2 in a row here, or an overall 4 wins, which is unprecedented at Road America. The real key factor there is that at lap 16 is really a critical point, the only lap for a fuel window if you want to make this a 2 pit stop race, and fuel is absolutely critical in the run at Road America. Speaking of fuel, let's go to Jan Vigas.
Well, that's right, Paul, and as you said, fuel is always critical here at Road America, but you know, it's not the fuel this year that's in this tank, it's the fuel that's in the race car tanks. All the Lola competitors were up very late on Friday night, tearing their cars apart, looking into the fuel cells. The crews were up to the wee hours of Saturday morning. That is, most of the Lolas are not picking up all the fuel, Paul. They had to make sure they can get every drop. In other words, if you don't run 16 laps here and then 17 laps and pick up all that fuel, you can't make it in 2 stops. Mileage is no problem, but picking all the fuel up is.
The field completing its first of 2 laps. They are now on the pace lap. Plenty of long time. Have to be very careful at this point not to burn too much of that fuel. Here is the Ford telemetry. It is in Raul Boisel's car, so we'll be able to do some comparisons between the Ford and the Chevrolet engine as they perform here. You'll also see it coming out of Brayton and Cheever's machine. Eddie Cheever, yes, very definitely back, but Derek Daly, a bit of a switch coming up. You'll be with us for the next IndyCar races, and Eddie Cheever is going to take your place in the Formula One booth.
Well, luckily we haven't had too many clashes this year, but Cheever does have a bit of experience working on Italian television. Now he'll have to use his best English on the F1 broadcasts.
But first he has an IndyCar race to drive here today. Let's go pit side again. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, to follow up on that fuel business, it's always been a critical concern anytime you come to Road America. But it's interesting that with the telemetry that you've been just talking about and experiencing there, it has really improved the fuel situation over the last couple of years because it's easier to manage that fuel situation now. Some of the teams are very, very confident going into this race. They'd like to see a couple of laps of full course yellow to take away some of the concern. But nonetheless, it's not like it was 2 or 3 years ago because that telemetry gives them so much information so often that it's easier now to manage from the cockpit. Remember, they can start rich at 100%. They can dial it down to 98%, 96%, lean the engine down to conserve fuel if necessary. The telemetry will tell them whether or not there's that need early in the competition.
Just to cap the fuel story, CART or IndyCar do not give you an unlimited amount of fuel. They just give you enough that if your car does 1.8 miles to the gallon, you will have enough fuel to do it. If your car doesn't do 1.8, you won't have enough fuel in the car or in the tank in the pit lane.
And without that telemetry, if you would go under the start-finish line bridge and your fuel warning light on your computer dash panel begin to indicate you're in trouble, your chances of making it to the end of that 4-mile lap are very slim indeed. Roberto Guerrero. The stats on Roberto. This morning in the warm-up session, he got off the course and into one of the gravel pits. Fortunately, no damage to that race car. Down toward Canada Corner, the north end of the circuit here. Wide out section on this racetrack. Top speeds coming here as the field still in single file. There's Eddie Cheever. He'll be driving the 90 car this weekend.
This is a 2-race deal for Cheever, not just this race, but he'll also go to the oval track in Nazareth. And Cheever, he tells me, is close to putting a full season's deal together for next year, because his IndyCar career, he said, is only just beginning.
Got a glimpse there of Danny Sullivan as he upshifted on the straightaway of some smoke. Now the course marshals, all volunteers here, are saying that there is some display of vapor at the back of his car, so we'll definitely keep an eye on that particular car. Now as they come off of the 14th turn, the final corner, you'll see the pit exit over to the right. They climb this hill here. Some G-loading right down in the cockpit when they approach here at speed. And Paul Tracy brings the field toward the green flag. Here they come. No start. Yellow flag comes out. Laps will count, but they will not race.
Well, Tracy was clearly ahead of Mansell, but our starter didn't like the formation he saw there, or else further back down the grid. So they go 4 more miles and line up again to do it a second time.
Keeping an eye on Danny Sullivan's car. Again, reported problems with this machine as they came around. Official word on the start exactly as Derek Daly suggested it, because the field was not lined up. There's the smoke at the back of that car.
He's in trouble. Sullivan is in trouble. There looks to be too much smoke there for that to be normal.
So Danny Sullivan with a problem. We'll continue to keep an eye on him. Let's take a look at this start again. And it was just simply that Paul Tracy really jumped hard at the start. And more than a half a car length, which is pretty much their guideline.
Yeah, the pole man is supposed to lead the field. If the outside pole man, which is obviously Nigel Mansell, didn't go with them, that was the decision the starter made.
And that was part of a question that came up in Detroit. What if the other guy, the fellow who's not the pole sitter, just jumped out of the throttle because he didn't like the way the start was going, let the pole sitter surge ahead? Still going to be some questions have to be answered there. Update on Danny Sullivan. Here's Gary Gerald.
Ed Nathman and the Sullivan team huddling here. They've gotten the information from officials around the racetrack. They're speculating it may be a seal around the turbocharger, but obviously they don't know. They're very concerned, Paul.
Well, it's a very prominent display of what looks to be oil vapor at the back of the car. And Danny Sullivan not showing at the moment as we look at the onboard camera, but a very, very serious problem potential for Danny Sullivan. As this is the first lap of the race, because of the fuel situation, they will count this lap and come back hopefully to a green flag as the field realigns. And we'll see if the starter, Jin Swin-Tao, approves of this particular start. Paul Tracy came across the line, looked about almost 2 car lengths ahead of Nigel Mansell. Now Mansell falls in behind, and they'll come into formation here shortly.
This is one of the most difficult areas of the racetrack here. It's a 4th gear left-hander under this bridge. You don't use the brakes, but you have to try and balance the car on the throttle, and only the very good handling cars go through there visually much, much faster than anything else.
Now will they get it right this time? Much of the field is strung out as they come through 14. There is still time for them to align for the trademark of the Indy cars and the flying start. They climb the hill now. The starter gets his first glimpse of them at this moment. And we're green. Paul Tracy surges again to the front of the field. Nigel Mansell chases. Andretti battles for 3rd place against Raul Boisel as Mansell comes in right behind Paul Tracy. And Tracy leads him through the first corner. Now downhill, and a tremendous set of elevation changes at this track. Emerson Fittipaldi looking for racing room as he closes in as well.
Robbie Gordon actually went outside Emerson in that turn 1, but we're inside with Mansell very briefly, right up behind Tracy.
Paul Tracy now has to hold off as Nigel Mansell does everything he can under heavy braking coming down into station 5. Mario Andretti ducks inside of Nigel Mansell. They climb the hill still in the same order.
Look at Robbie Gordon. Robbie Gordon is flying on this opening lap.
Gordon gets around Al Unser Jr., comes up to the top of the hill. The rest of the field comes through safely. Now Paul Tracy begins to pull away a little bit. Keep an eye on that black car of Robbie Gordon as he lines up behind Raul Boisel. It's Tracy, Mansell, Mario Andretti, Boisel, Robbie Gordon, Al Unser Jr.
Gordon has gone from 8th place right up behind Raul Boisel here.
Gordon made some spectacular moves in that the first few corners here as they head to the high-speed side of the back section of the race course. And he got off and got back on and kept it under control.
Now he's in trouble though. Look at Al Jr. has the run on him, but he's going to block him. He's going to block him. Look, down the inside.
Little Al looks for room to the outside, can't find it. They go single file through here. Very difficult section of the course as they come up under the bridge. The view from Bobby Rahal as they head for that bridge. Now he's right behind that battle. Through the bend at 13, this is turn 14, and back to the pit straight for the first time in competition today with the second lap of competition. The first one, a yellow lap. That miscue on the backside, Robbie Gordon able to hold his position. Right further back in the field as Rahal and Brayton battle.
Rahal not happy with his car. We move forward with Gordon. Look at this dirt still flying off Robbie Gordon's car. Maybe he went off again at turn 1, but Gordon always spectacular. And on the opening laps, he will take the risky moves.
Gordon leans over, checks his mirrors. To see Allenser Jr. and Ari Lyondike close behind him. Battle for third now begins to close up as Raul Boisel comes up right behind Mario Andretti as they climb the hill, make the left-hand turn at the top. It's a blind corner. Looking for Ford to remedy on Boisel is off the course as Roberto Guerrero. A quick off and back on, and as he climbs that hill and makes the left-hand turn into a section of the course they call Hurry Down. The battle for third once again. There's the telemetry coming out of Raul Boisel's car.
The impressive thing here is the speed. This is the carousel to go through. You can see that 115 miles an hour on accelerate. Now the charge starts. The kink here sometimes is flat. Look, he backs off the throttle. You can see it, that bottom bar. Now the run down to Canada corner where there's a braking zone. Look at this, 195 miles an hour with full fuel load.
We were speculating in the morning lineup when he was running at 191 miles an hour, whether or not that wasn't his peak potential speed on full fuel tanks. Obviously, it's not. He's very fast through there.
You keep looking at the telemetry on this front straight. Sometimes, depending on how the wind blows, even with this uphill climb here past the pits, this front straight is almost 190 miles an hour sometimes. Let's have a look here. Let's get close. Here you go again, 192 miles an hour on the front straight, 193 down the back.
While this battle for third place is a comparison of two Ford power plants, they are not identical power plants. And as a matter of fact, Dick Simon, the owner of Raul Boisel's car, was complaining that they're not getting the upgrades that are used on the Newman Haas car, which is the primary car for the Ford engine, quite as fast as they would like. Roberto Guerrero comes in. Jan Bigas is there.
The first of the cars to come into the pits. He is missing a front wing, Paul. When he got off the track, he made contact with Cheever. We saw just the end of him off the track. They are going to try and replace that right front wing, but they can't do one wing, Paul. They have to do that entire nose box. You can see that they have those small little cap screws, and they have about 12 of them they have to take out. Right now, they're stuck. This is going to be a long repair for Roberto Guerrero, just coming off his best finish of the season, 4th.
Of course, the question is if there's any problem on Eddie Cheever's car as well. We'll keep an eye on his machine and check for that. Second, third, and fourth, as they separated their battle for just a moment and head through the carousel. It is Paul Tracy that is still leading Nigel Mansell in the Texaco Havoline 200. Fittipaldi currently runs in 8th place, trying to catch up with the rest of the field. Just moments ago, one car off, Adrian Fernandez dropped a wheel off and caught the barrier very hard and then slid to a stop. That's over on the back side of the course. They have displayed local yellows in that area only. At the moment, there is not an indication of sending the pace car out, putting a full course yellow out, and slowing the field in its entirety. The safety crew is out on the way, of course, to aid Adrian Fernandez, and we'll give you an update there.
And you see it right here. It's one of the most difficult corners here. Right there's safety on the way going to Fernandez. It's right here at the kink. You try to go flat, but if you hit the curb on the inside, you're in all sorts of trouble. That's what happened to Fernandez.
Disabled car, you saw it off the left-hand side of the race course. The course marshals were there with him. The IndyCar safety team will be on the scene in a matter of seconds, and then we'll get a full evaluation as we watch Bobby Bobby Rahal work his way through traffic from 10th place. Front of the field remains Tracy, followed by Mansell, then Mario Andretti. Raul Boisel runs in 4th. Robbie Gordon is in 5th right now. Ari Lyondike, the past few moments, has battled with Al Unser Jr., but Ari is currently in 6th place, followed by Little Al in 7th. Emerson Fittipaldi is 8th. Scott Brayton is 9th, and you ride with the 10th place car of Bobby Rahal.
10th place car of Rahal, not happy. Tested here in July, found a nice setup and couldn't find the sweet spot in this Lola and has struggled all weekend here.
You can see there by the wing that says Bud on it, the 40 car, Roberto Guerrero, is back in competition with a new nose on the car, but well behind. He dropped from 11th to 29th place on the stop, and the yellow flags being displayed all around the course, which means a full course yellow. Gordon Johncock is the driver of the pace car. He will come out on the course. They'll slow the field down. No passing at this moment. And they'll then try and get Adrian Fernandez's car off of the race course and make sure that he's well. Here's the start of the race as we take a look at Paul Tracy as they came past the first corner. He dropped the left rear off and almost got totally sideways.
Yeah, that was turn 3, exiting onto the first of the back straights here. Tracy used every piece of talent he had to drag that car back on, and Mansell wasn't able to accelerate and get a good run on him because Tracy ducked back on to the racing line again.
Roberto Guerrero's repair for the nose took 1 minute and 3 seconds before he headed back into the competition. 5 laps of 50 are complete at Road America. Back at Road America, as the cars circulate into the full course yellow. Sunday night baseball continues tonight, 8 p.m. The Chicago Cubs host the Atlanta Braves, and John Smoltz will be on the mound versus Jose Guzman as the Sunday night baseball continues. So we're under full course yellow. The reason is heavy impact with the barrier down on the backside of the race course as Adrian Fernandez got into the wall. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, some interesting strategy from the Penske camp. Roger Penske in Germany much of this weekend, just arrived here this morning. He's on the wall calling the signals as usual for Paul Tracy. They've elected to make Tracy a bit of a rabbit because they're so optimistic about the fuel mileage they've been getting in the practice sessions and in the early stages of this race. They want to see if he can set a furious pace, if Mansell will bite and go with it, because the Penske camp with the Chevy power thinks that they get better mileage than the Ford Cosworth. That, of course, will shake out through the afternoon. Also interesting, Tracy very good on the throttle. They know that he gets good fuel mileage traditionally. Emerson Fittipaldi, his teammate, perhaps a little heavier on and off the throttle. They started out in a more conservative mode, but now with this yellow, they're going to go to the same boost settings that Tracy has. Be interesting to keep an eye on those two cars from the Penske camp. Now let's go to the Newman Haas camp in Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, that's one of the first things we checked into. We asked here at Newman Haas and we said, is Nigel Mansell biting? In other words, is he going to go with the rabbit? And they said, no, we know what Tracy is up to. He's trying to draw us off of our fuel numbers. What that means is that they are watching the telemetry, they're watching the computers, they're only letting Nigel go as fast as those computer numbers will allow them. He wants to go race with Tracy, but they know what Tracy's up to and the strategy of Penske to try and pull him off those fuel numbers.
And one would presume with this full course yellow that any problem with making this a two-stop race is probably going away.
That's it. Throw it all out the window now. The longer that it takes to clear up Adrian Fernandez's crash car and clean up the scene. And here's a replay. Watch the violent impact you see here. Look at the impact. Remember, they go through the kink at 175 miles an hour. And watch how hard he hits that outside barrier. That, of course, is some of the unloved Armco barrier. A lot of that has been replaced here at Road America with the concrete barriers, but that did hold up quite well to that impact by Fernandez.
Our best report is that Adrian Fernandez is out of the car, being examined by the medical people. Got out under his own power, though. We'll give you a continual update on his situation. The display of smoke and vapor is at the back of Danny Sullivan's car, which has moved from an irritant to under slow speeds appears to be somewhat terminal.
Danny, you can order an early flight right now, because with that amount of smoke coming out of the back of that car, you're not going to go very far.
Even if he could get it into the pits, they can't put any more oil in the car than they leave at the start of the day. This is Adrian Fernandez's car. Take a look at the nose on that car. This very much similar to the damage that occurred on Paul Tracy's Tracy's car on Friday. So the design of the footbox in this car making a world of difference. We're continuing to wait now for official word from an IndyCar safety team as to the condition of Adrian Fernandez and whether or not he sustained any injuries in that accident. Look at Danny Sullivan again. You have a mosquito problem in this area. It's probably gone now with all the lakes around Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Willie T is following Danny Sullivan in that line under yellow here, so I bet he's beginning to cough and
get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then Danny moves over and Willie comes over to the other side. The governor of Wisconsin, Tommy Thompson's a great racing fan. It seems anytime there's any kind of racing event, he is here. He is here today. Even in the middle of winter, he's up watching the snowmobile races. So they're helping out with the mosquito control for the governor.
Danny Sullivan had his annual golf tournament in Aspen last week, and believe it or not, somebody paid $51,000 to play with Greg Norman, one of Danny's pro celebrities that he had in his golf tournament. Raised a tremendous amount of money for a charity.
You know who can afford that now? Bobby Youngster. $100,000 richer in the Fast Masters last night.
Well, we'll never hear the end of it.
Well, but maybe he's got so much money he doesn't have to work on television for a while now. What do you think? All right, so the field is under a full course yellow. And this is the actual second full course yellow. They took yellow at the green because the starter disallowed the start, but they count that first lap. And then when Adrian Fernandez got into the barrier, they wanted to go yellow once again, and they are. Danny Sullivan continues to be an emission control problem at Road America, though he stays out and continues to circulate, hoping that they'll get back to racing speed where the problem doesn't seem nearly as prominent. Full course yellow. They should be going back to the green flag as soon to the top of the field. Paul Tracy is the leader of the race, followed by Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti, then Robbie Gordon. Raul Boisel pulled out of the line, came into the pits. They changed some tires and refueled the car. Perhaps we can get an update on that situation here shortly, but first, for an update on Adrian Fernandez, here's Garrett.
At the IndyCar Medical Center, we are told that Adrian was able to walk from the emergency vehicle into the coach under his own power. Dr. Jay Phelan is in there with him now. They say it'll probably be 15 or 20 minutes as they continue to monitor him. Apparently not a serious injury. We're happy to report it's just a little wobbly after a high-speed impact in that treacherous part of the race course. But an optimistic early report. We'll hope to have a confirmation in maybe 20 minutes or so.
Well, we'll continue to wait for that, but I'm glad that the situation appears to be all right as of this moment. We'll wait for a more detailed explanation. Danny Sullivan still displaying smoke at the back of his car as they're down on the backside of the race course. The lights, yellow flashing lights, are turned off. Driven by Gordon Johncock, a former great IndyCar champion here. So that will bring them up the hill, and Paul Tracy will be the first to see a green flag, and we'll be back to racing speed at the beginning of lap number 10. 50 lap distance here, 200 miles.
Paul Tracy driving here with his right ankle very heavily taped. The impact was so violent he actually almost dislocated his ankle, stretched the ligaments on the outside, and it is very heavily taped, which gives him a lot of trouble when he tries to heel toe on his downshifting.
I was sitting behind him in the driver's meeting today, and he was rocking his head back and forth constantly, trying to get some of the pain out of those neck muscles. He climbs the hill now. Tracy almost totally alone as he sees the green flag. Gets a good jump on the rest of the field. He's chased by Mansell. Roberto Guerrero in the red car is not a factor here. He is down a lap to the rest of the field, but the field has to deal with him. Mansell chases him, then Andretti chases Mansell. Now Robbie Gordon has to deal with the somewhat slower car of Roberto Guerrero. A look back from Mansell. Here they come off the corner now. Tracy uses every inch of the race course. The two Newman Haas cars chasing the Penske of Paul Tracy.
And that's Lyondike pulls out a line to get by Guerrero. There's nothing Guerrero can do. He really has to move aside and let those leaders by, but puts himself further and further behind. Look at Robbie Gordon.
Robbie Gordon comes in to challenge Andretti, while at the same time Fittipaldi was challenging Lyondike. Gordon off the course again. It gives the position back to Andretti. Second time off the course today for Gordon. Now he's right back at Andretti.
Experienced in off-track racing, so he spends lots of time on the grass and on the dirt. But on IndyCars, you got to keep those 4 black patches on the road. But Gordon, ever spectacular, but he just went in too deep under the brake. Look at the cue behind, though. Rahal goes inside Guerrero.
Arie Luyendyk pulls up right behind Gordon, as does Fittipaldi. Bobby Rahal came alongside a slower car, appeared to be Guerrero, so he could get a good run into the carousel in a critical section of the race course. There is Rahal as he makes that turn into the corner, and once again, a wheel dropped off. Here comes Gordon running through.
Now, that wasn't Gordon that time. That was one of the Newman Haas cars. Mansell or Andretti stuck a wheel off the track onto that dirt.
Let's get an update on Robbie Gordon's engine. Here's Jan Beekes.
Well, when we see Robbie Gordon chasing Mario Andretti, what you have to keep in mind is, yes, they're both Ford power plants, and we know that Robbie Gordon is Ford's favorite son, but he doesn't have the latest updates that Mario, Nigel, and Arie Luyendyk have, which are some new camshafts that reportedly make 40 more horsepower at the top end and 12 more horsepower everywhere else. So Robbie Gordon, the top man as far as Ford is concerned, as far as Ford's future, but a lot of the other Ford teams, Paul, will not have these new camshafts until later on. But right now, obviously, he's able to hang on to Mario Andretti.
40 horsepower off camshafts. That would seem to be a remarkable figure.
Well, it's actually a combination of the induction, the plenum, the induction manifold, and now the latest camshafts. I don't know whether it's 40, but it's certainly a lot more horsepower than they started the season with.
Common knowledge would suggest to you that 3 horsepower could mean a mile an hour down a long straightaway.
Now watch what happens here. He's actually a car length behind Mario when he makes the charge. Now right here he probably realizes he's in trouble. Now watch what Mario does. He sees him go off the road, and now he takes avoiding action. Look at Mario, turns left, says don't hit me, and just snatches that position back again.
We mentioned that during the yellow, Raul Boisel headed into the pits, did some tire changing, refueling, and headed out. Gary Gerald, what was that all about?
Paul, it was a matter of miscommunication. At the point where Boisel was on the racetrack, he didn't get a clear radio contact with the pit. They told him to stay out. He thought it meant come in. He came in. They had planned a 2 full stop and a splash at the end for fuel. Now they get their splash early. They've still got 2 full stops more than likely ahead of them in this race. So just a little miscommunication on a radio glitch.
You saw there the tire tracks of Adrian Fernandez, that he never actually got to the curb before he lost control and shot off the road.
Raul Boisel works his way up through the field now as he comes around Mike Graw. He fell back to 19th place in passing Graw. He's now moved into 15th as Stefan Johansson comes off the course.
The continuance of a terrible weekend for Stefan Johansson. This car did not handle well from the time they unloaded it from the truck. Then he changed to another car and they could still not get the thing to go any faster. So now he's out. Just a terrible weekend to forget for Stefan Johansson.
For a moment, they, at least during the practice, thought that they had the problem licked, and then it came right back to bite them. Johansson jumped up in the order, but now he's off the course and apparently out of the battle. So we go back and take a look at Robbie Gordon now as he continues his fight up through the field, chasing Andretti, but chasing him, of course, is Arie Luyendyk. Emerson Fittipaldi is just behind Luyendyk, all of them in attack position.
Arie Luyendyk running better than he has of late, has lots of trouble trying to get the handling of this car sorted out. For this weekend, they moved Luyendyk's cars onto the new Penske shock absorbers. He liked them, he could sort the car out, he could handle it better, and that's what they decided to race on. So Penske shock absorbers on Luyendyk's Lola.
Luyendyk's progress through this field as he has come up from 11th to 5th. And is now battling with the leaders of the race, and Fittipaldi is right there fighting as well through the gravel pit, heading down to the kink. They're going to get Stefan Johansson off the course by sending just a tow vehicle out. They will not go full course yellow for him. They can get him safely off the course with only local yellow coverage. Let's get an update on Stefan Johansson from Gary.
Well, Tony Bettenhausen and the crew mystified. They say that from the radio conversation, the car just went dead. So they're getting all the electronics gear that they can assembled on pit wall, hoping that he can get a tow back to the pits, and then they can experiment with the various black boxes and possibly get him out. But once again, this tough luck and run of frustration for this team seemingly continuing, Paul.
Well, the order is with 12 laps of 50 now complete. Paul Tracy leads it, followed by Nigel Mansell. You get a look at Robbie Gordon, who runs in fourth. Mario Andretti is chasing Mansell in third place. Then Ari Lyondike in fifth, Emerson Fittipaldi in sixth, Bobby Rahal is seventh, followed by Eddie Cheever, Al Unser Jr., and Teo Fabi. The key player to this point, at least the most spectacular, has been Robbie Gordon. Back at Road America, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, the Indy cars continue. Don't forget the Volvo International, a final match, number 5 seed versus Peter Korda, the 4th seed, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's coming up here on ESPN. Eddie Cheever with Teo Fabi chasing him. Cheever back to occasional rides, but boy, he's giving this car a wonderful ride today. Started 15th, now runs in 8th place.
Leaves here, goes back to the Speedway in Indianapolis. We'll do 2 days testing next Wednesday and Thursday before he whistles off to Spa in Belgium to cover the Formula 1 race. But Cheever doesn't do as much racing as he wanted to, but will be back, he says, for a full season.
Paul Tracy is the leader, followed by Nigel Mansell, the current points leader. Mario Andretti is in third. Robbie Gordon in 4th place with a good drive, a spectacular drive up through the field. Ari Lyondike continues to be right at the back of Gordon, and Emerson Fittipaldi runs in 6th. Let's go down to Jan Bikas. Well, we thought we had Jan there for a moment. Not only Raul Boisel and his team having radio problems here. Let's try instead Gary Gerald.
Well, I think Jan is down the hill on the approach, coming up the hill into the pits, talking about position, and you know there's a chicane of cones to slow the teams down, and he was going to talk about the importance of being first into the pits for Newman Haas. Well, the Penske team is up here in mid-pits. They specifically selected a slot here. You've got Emerson Fittipaldi right over here, and then you've got this break, and then you've got Paul Tracy over here on this side. That gives this team a little extra room to work in case they have to come in on the same lap. But we understand now on this first anticipated stop, it'll more than likely be Tracy on lap 18. They'll hold Emo out until lap 19. Paul?
We watched Paul Tracy. Nigel Mansell really turned up the wick. He just cut a lap at 130.8 miles an hour. That is the fastest lap of this race thus far. There you see Mansell as he comes out from under the bridge. And the tremendous lead that they have over this three-way battle developing now for third place, with Mario Andretti currently occupying third.
One of the problems that Mansell thought he would have is this Penske, as the race goes on, does not use its tires or wear its tires out as quickly as the Lola. That's why as the race goes on, lap after lap, the Penske doesn't seem to lose the grip, and the Lola has shown tendencies to go off the pace as the race goes on. But he's in the fight right now.
Lyondike on station just behind Robbie Gordon, as we'll go back and take a look at Danny Sullivan and his telemetry. Unfortunately, we don't have much oils in this car.
Well, to the surprise of everybody, Sullivan is still out there, lap 14. I'm sure to the surprise of himself, because there's no doubt he saw that smoke. Very often it's a leaking seal in the turbocharger that causes the oil to leak in, particularly when he's going slowly. Maybe that he's at racing speed is actually better. Look at the lateral G's, almost at 3, pulling to the left.
Danny Sullivan rides in 16th. We'll let you ride with him.
His speed 190. We saw 193 from Bozell earlier. Third gear corner.
Here comes the start finish line. That's Christian Danner just ahead of him as they head for the first corner. Let's watch.
192 for Sullivan there. That's every bit as quick. In fact, I believe it's quicker than we saw Bozell run up that front straight earlier.
Chevrolet telemetry coming off of that engine direct to us. Again, a car drops a quick wheel off. A downhill run here. Windy in this part, and then when they head into the woods, there is no wind pushing the car around. But all downhill hill into Station 5 here.
Hear that? You hear that? Something went wrong. It's over. It broke as we were in car with Sullivan, under braking, and finally it coughs enough. It's over.
Certainly not unexpected. He'll try to get the car off of the edge of the race course. Now plenty of oil coming out of the back of that car. Danny had to put his foot on the brake to keep him rolling all the way down the hill. Maybe that's his intention.
Yeah. Let's see what he says. Go to the track marshal. Will I go back? Will I roll down? Somebody obviously said no.
Shows you how much of a grade there is there. As Danny's saying, get me out of this place. I really don't want to sit here. Local yellow covers Danny Sullivan's car in that position as his day is done. Leader is still Paul Tracy. He crosses the line as he increases the pace at 132 miles an hour. Fastest lap of the race thus far on the last lap for Paul Tracy. There's Mansell, there's Mario. Here's the rest of the group as they come down the hill. And Fittipaldi tries to make a move on Leyendijk. Leyendijk runs in fifth. Fittipaldi trying to get around him.
And remember, for the championship fight, it's Emerson that needs to finish ahead of Mansell. Remember, Tracy is 40-something points behind, so the chances of him catching Mansell are slim. But Emerson is a long way back here. He needs to get closer, and he needs to get ahead of Mansell to increase this championship fight.
Down the hill run for Leyendijk and Fittipaldi. And Fittipaldi still not contesting Leyendijk. That's the yellow zone. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, we're back, and what we were going to talk about before, and Gary was talking about pit position and pit selection, it all comes down to the chicane that's behind me. The chicane is marked out with cones, and you say, well, if there's an 80-mile-per-hour speed limit, why do you need a chicane? Well, IndyCar says that we want to keep you guys honest. We want to get you slowed down before you get there. Well, that pit position and pit selection means that for Nigel Mansell and for Mario Andretti, they could come flying through here. Remember, there's no speed limit in this chicane. We're going to see them getting sideways and getting hard on the power. Remember to keep the camera on here with Nigel Mansell and also Mario Andretti, because they're in the first and second pit. They don't have to come slow out of the chicane. They can gas it, then jump right on the brakes, swoop right into their respective positions in the pits. Now, just like Gary was saying, the Penske pits are further down. They have to slow down twice, but Nigel Mansell and Mario just once.
Ari Leyendijk just able to jump around Robbie Gordon in that continuing battle. Now Bobby Rahal is closing in to be part of it. So Leyendijk, who had been trying to handle up Gordon for a number of laps now, got the advantage, got around him. Fittipaldi will set his sights on Gordon as well.
Two Ford engines versus two Chevrolet engines here. Rahal just about to claw his way back up to the back of this freight train, but I think he's in hang-on mode. He didn't just feel he had enough in this car to be able to attack and run to the front. He said he was going to have to let the race settle down and begin to come back to him a little bit.
Leyendijk's move. This is still the battle on the race course as Gordon tries to get back the position he just lost. And right behind him, there's Fittipaldi as he continues this fight. Rahal now closes in.
Because the Ganassi team will leave Lola and run the new Reynard Indy car that is being designed and built in England as we speak. However, development continues with this Lola, and Leyendijk has a new front wing design on his car, which I believe Rahal is the only other one that enjoys such a similar design.
They're still showing a yellow flag at Station 5, the bottom of the hill, despite the fact that they already have Danny Sullivan under tow and will get him off of the race course. The race started under yellow as Paul Tracy got a bit of a jump on the rest of the field. They ran one lap under yellow, went to green. Paul Tracy has led ever since then. They went to a full course yellow when Adrian Fernandez got into the barrier and got in very hard, but he climbed out of the car and walked away, and we've come back to racing with no change at the front of the field. Paul Tracy and Nigel Mansell lead it. In third place is Mario Andretti, but they are laid out for Paul Tracy as Tracy comes up the hill, heads for the chicane, and for what should be the first of two stops, Gary Gerald is there.
Well, the moment that these teams wait so anxiously for, they want to display their skills, their capability. They're ready now. The Penske team for Paul Tracy, here he is perfectly on the mark. The young driver hit it right on the nose. No word about any discomfort in the cockpit. Remember, he's far from 100% physically, but they love the way the car's been working. They like the fuel mileage. Everything is very positive. Mansell is in. Tracy's out in 14 seconds. Let's go to Jan.
Nigel Mansell just screams away, Gary. They waited for every last drop of fuel. Not one change on Mansell's car. He's away.
Here comes Mansell Tracy already out of the pits. Both of them have to be very concerned with the speed limit in the pits. Robbie Gordon is in the pits as well. All the cars theoretically should come in on this stop safe, perhaps Bosell, because of the splash and go that he got earlier.
And you can see Gordon's not happy with the handling of that car. We saw them take front wing out of his car. Obviously it oversteers. That's what slowed him down a little bit. That maybe allowed Ari Lyondike to move ahead, which has now given him the lead, very temporarily though.
Lyondike stayed out, as did Fittipaldi, Raul Boesel, and Mike Groff, so they run first through fourth. But on the next lap, they certainly will have to come in.
Well, three of them will. Remember, Boesel made a stop earlier.
Right to the lead.
So, although Boesel made a miscue, if this race fell into his hands, if there was another yellow, that actually may have been a good move earlier to come in.
So the key question will be, how will Raul Boesel come on in relationship to both Paul Tracy and Nigel Mansell as the rest of the cars go in for their pit stop? Currently, you're looking at the 10 car. That is Ari Lyondike, and he is the leader.
He can't stay out much longer. He's probably on his way to the pit lane now, having done 18 laps. 16 was the magical lap number before we had that lengthy yellow. What's he going to do?
Through the final corner, yes, he comes over to the right and up the pit road, so he will relinquish the lead, as will, we assume, Fittipaldi. There he is. But Raul Boesel stays out, as he should, because he picked up fuel in the early going.
And they look so slow and controlled when they do 80 miles an hour coming down this pit lane. They're in together. This is a fight between the two crews.
And Paul Tracy comes around both of them. And Tracy picks up the lead of the race, but Raul Boesel may have fallen into a position that puts him into second place, as the first round of pit stops are now being completed in the Texaco Havoline 200. Texaco Havoline 200 as you ride with Nigel Mansell. He is in third place. With that miscue on the pit stop in the early going, Raul Boesel picked up an advantage for this stop. Of course, he'll be out of the pit stop sequence for the remainder of the day now. So Raul Boesel is in second place, and you can see, looking ahead from Mansell's car, Boesel is not in sight. He is closer to Tracy than he is to Mansell, and he is beginning now to close on Paul Tracy.
Mansell's pit stop was not quick enough. It was not as fast as Tracy's, and just look at the lead now. Tracy has over the third place car, Nigel Mansell. We're leaving Boesel out of the scenario because we know he's out of step on these pit stops. But let's go back to his Ford electronics and look at the telemetry being given to us by Boesel's car. Again, the interesting thing is the speed on the right-hand side and the amount of throttle he uses. You can see him often in blips as he down changes. Accelerates. This is the carousel, one of the most difficult corners on this track. That's Buddy Lazier ahead of him in a Buick engine car. Needs to move over. No, he doesn't.
Boesel gets him nevertheless, as now to a very fast section of the course. Not as fast as he's been earlier.
189. That's, well, he was slow because he didn't go fast through the kink, because having to pass Buddy Lazier.
All right, here is the way they lined up before the pit stop to show you the impact of the pit stop on the race itself. On the left-hand side is the position before the stop. Of course, the driver's car number and name. On the right-hand side is how they came out of the pit stop. Let's go to Gary Terrell.
Well, Paul, you mentioned Raul Boesel being out of the sequence. We expect him now, after checking with Dick Simon, in 2 more laps. Then they'll exhibit their skills, and we'll see how much of a price he has to pay as the leader now. But he won't be the leader a couple of laps from now.
Well, he'll certainly give up position to Nigel Mansell, who sits only 7 seconds back. Perhaps even Mario Andretti, but he still should remain in the top 5. Perhaps, if the stop goes well, coming out to battle with Ari Lyondike. His climb up through the field, well down after the stop, and then picking up the advantage of not having to stop on lap 17.
New sponsor on this car, Union Tank Car Company, part of the Marmon Group. They appeared at Indianapolis. Well, they're back in racing again now on the side of Boesel's car.
Boesel runs in second place, chasing Paul Tracy, who is 3 seconds ahead. On board with Bobby Rahal. He runs in 9th, Racing, Brian Till just ahead. Till started in 20th, now runs in 8th.
Can't complain about that. That's a good run. One of last year's Penske cars. Brian Till trying to hang on to his IndyCar career. This is only a day-to-day drive that he has with Norm Turley's operation. Bob Liebert, who is his mentor, is still working on their own IndyCar program for Brian Till for next year that they hope they can put together.
Rahal wants everybody in front of him out of his way as he comes through the carousel. He knows he has to keep the momentum up here as Al Unser Jr. pulls off the edge of the race course. Could that be the same problem that bit Danny Sullivan?
No, I wouldn't think so, but this is a shame because Al Unser Jr., after he qualified 6th, thought he had the best handling car that he has had all year and really thought he could challenge to try and win this race. Now it's over.
Yesterday, Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. were working together on the setup of the cars. In fact, in good animated conversation several times in their pits as they discussed the situation on the track and how their cars were handling.
Great view of the elevation changes here. Look at that hill. Up the hill, up, and then you plane out of the top before you go past the pit lane. 190 miles an hour we see almost everybody do. This is 4th gear. 4th gear. Now we go downhill. This is the 2nd gear corner. You can hear Rahal make 2 changes. And then you blast it back again. These engines work so hard here at Elkhart because of these long, long straights.
Run down here, Teo Fabi is being called into the pits for a pit speed violation, stop and go penalty. That's Teo Fabi in and out. They are also saying that a black flag will be displayed to Emerson Fittipaldi for a pit speed violation. You saw the yellow flag there at the top of the hill off to the right. That's for Al Unser Jr.'s car sitting off in the gravel. Little Al's working on the car. Gary Gerald, can you help us with this?
Quick word from Rick Gallus. Gearbox problems for Junior. That's what put him on the sideline, Paul.
Only 3rd DNF for Little Al in the last 2 years. And that's where he was, back at the gearbox, checking it out.
And lots of speculation as to what he will do next year. Will he stay in IndyCar? Believe it or not, Al Unser Jr. wants a Formula One opportunity, and Bozell is in.
So Raul drops out of 2nd place and heads into the pits. Gary Gerald waits for him.
I'm glad you mentioned that 2nd place, Paul. We inadvertently had him in the lead. Forgot that Tracy had the 3-second advantage. Now Raul, a couple of laps out of sequence, coming down pit road. We have him in sight now with the crew. We shoot from the front. We look from the back as he comes to a stop. Dick Simon's team that has stepped up so dramatically in the last couple of years. They've done a marvelous job with Bozell all season long. We don't see any changes up front. They clean out any debris from the radiators. They're ready. He's off the jacks. 14.7 on that stop.
And how does he come out? There comes Bobby Rahal and Robbie Gordon and Brian Till down the hill. They run 7th, 8th, and 9th. And so Raul will drop back as he battles with Brian Till.
And it is a battle. That is a fight for position right there. So Bozell on cold tires, full of fuel, is a battle for 9th place.
Stefan Johansson back under power and follows him down the hill. So whatever his problem was that pulled off, they got that fixed, and he got back into the fight, though he's well behind the field.
You are allowed to tow these cars back to the pit lane. You can work on them. You can get them to go again, and away you go back into battle.
So the early miscue on the pit stop put Bozell up to 2nd, then dropped him back, but still he remains in the top 10. The front of the field, it is still Paul Tracy. You ride with Bobby Rahal, and Nigel Mansell is now running in 2nd place, his teammate Mario behind him. At the Texaco Havoline 200, Robbie Gordon got around Bobby Rahal just a moment ago, so now Gordon runs in 6th place. In the meantime, they brought Emerson Fittipaldi in for a stop-and-go penalty for the pit speed limit violation. This could have a terribly adverse effect on his championship.
Terribly incredibly frustrating thing for a driver to have to deal with a stop-and-go penalty. But here's Gordon on the charge again. Inside Rahal, his favorite position, turn 5. This time, he stays on the racetrack, and look what he does. He blocks Bobby Rahal on the run up the hill and under the bridge.
We're at the halfway point here in the Texaco Havoline 200. Let's get a further update on Adrian Fernandez. Here's Gary.
Dr. Jay Phelan is alongside. He's been observing, of course, Adrian Fernandez and treating him. Doctor, what can you tell us about his condition?
Well, it appears that Adrian's only injury is a bruised left kneecap. He was a little woozy when he came in, and he couldn't put everything together as to the sequence of the accident. But he's starting to come around. He's remembering a lot more now. He has no head injury that we can tell.
Well, we're pleased to hear that. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you.
Well, it's remarkable considering the accident that we saw that only a bruise results.
Just be thankful that IndyCar continue to make these foot boxes stronger and continue to move the driver's feet further and further away from these violent impacts, because don't make no mistake about it, violent impacts will continue, but it's better to have the driver his feet not to be first at the scene of the accident. Let some bulkheads be there first. Now here's the end. It looks like the end of Mark Smith's day. Boy, look, he crossed over the racing line there. I hope he cleared his mirror there first. But Mark Smith did a remarkably good job in qualifying all the way up in 9th place for a team that doesn't do every race.
Mark Smith heads up the road to the pits. They'll take a look at that car and find out what's wrong, hopefully get it back into the fight. Mark Smith, one of those new young drivers in the Indy cars that is certainly going to be someone to watch in the future. Watching right now, one of the new drivers is Paul Tracy. He leads this field. If his job is to be the rabbit and draw out Mansell, they have not drawn out Mansell. He has a solid lead over Mansell, but he may also be on his way to winning this race. The crew fell over Mark Smith's car.
And there he's passing the invisible Indy car. All I can see is the wheels. Of course, this is a new grey paint job on Dale Coyne's car, driven by Robbie Buell, which represents Simon. Simon, of course, is the distributor for MyJack Equipment, and of course, this is their local home race here, so the car represents their local or their corporate colors.
I don't know. Great car on a great track on a gray afternoon. I'm not so sure. Paul Tracy just in front of him. There's Robbie Buell.
Had a terrible time at Indianapolis. Went there with 2 cars and had 2 horrendous crashes. Almost stopped his season. Sent Dale Coyne back to the bank to try and scurry and gather up more cash to put another car under Robbie Buell, the reigning Indy Lights champion. One of the things he does is he's involved in the Racing for Kids program. And before he came here this weekend, he went to the Weiler Children's Hospital in Chicago to see 100 sick children. He does it regularly.
The penalty for Emerson Fittipaldi dropped him from 5th to 8th. Let's get an update from Gary.
We understand from the Penske camp, Paul, it was 92 miles per hour on the violation on the entry into the pit. What the Penske people are unhappy about is that they came in with Ari Luyendyk. They said if Emma was going 92 and was right behind Ari had to be going too fast. No penalty for Luyendyk. We don't have any other word on that situation. It's dropped Emma back, I believe, to 8. He lost 3 positions as a result of the stop and go.
And of course, that has been much of the argument all along. They have 3 people reading the speeds up and down the pits. Now, those 3 people then have to read on a track like this when virtually half the field comes in for pit stops all on the same lap. Second place, Nigel Mansell.
It's a difficult gray area to police that is controversial. However, the only reason they have it is for a safety reason. Remember what happened with Fittipaldi and Michael Andretti, a huge crash in the pit lane at Long Beach a couple of years ago. That's what they're trying to avoid.
Take a look at how Nigel Mansell has fallen somewhat behind the leader, lost 2 seconds in 1 lap there. He continues to look for a sight of the back end of Paul Tracy's car as he crests each of the hills, now in turn 1, downhill heading for turn 2. Let's go to Jan Bikas. They're doing some changes on these new Lolas.
That's right, Paul. Lola is trying to keep up with Penske. The Penske car is so quick, they have something new. It's called the high caster upright. What that means, it's a new upright. Upright just means it holds the wheel, the disc, everything. These holes right here have been moved in relation to these. That changes the caster. You say, well, what's caster? This is what we're used to seeing as a caster. You see them on your shopping carts. You try and push them around, and you can hardly keep them in a straight line. More caster means, it actually means more angle, which means self-centering on the wheel. What that does for you on an Indy car car is that in the slow turners, when you turn the wheel tight, in the slow corners that is, it gives you more camber and more grip. It seems to be helping here in the slow turns. Only Mansell right now and also Bobby Rahal have these uprights.
Well, at the moment, there is no real evidence that it's caught up to what Paul Tracy is capable of doing, though. As Mansell continues, 14, almost 15 seconds behind the leader of the race. There is no one in contest with one another anywhere on the circuit here at Road America. Our coverage of the Texaco Havoline 200 is being brought to you by Havoline Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Change in circumstance here at Road America. In the last few seconds, Ari Luyendyk trying to get around Hiro Matsushita, and he lost control. Now watch Luyendyk.
Watch the curb. He tries to get over the curb, and he hits the guardrail. Look, bang, knocks the rear suspension off the guardrail in his haste to get out ahead of Robbie Gordon. Now what's this? Oh, he tells Matsushita what he thinks, or Matsushita, however you pronounce his name now.
They change it about every 6 months. They say the pronunciation is now Matsushita. Apparently, not enough of a glance to do any damage to the car. Well, how can look what Mansell did in Indianapolis at over 200, smacking into the turn 2 wall, and continued on in the final laps of that race.
Now watch Rahal here. That's a Chevrolet engine versus the Ford. Can he catch Matsushita on this front straight? Oh, he gathers him up. Look at this. Look at it. Right under his rear wing. Whoosh. That's it. Bye-bye. I'm going.
Substantial difference in power there. Luyendyk continues to lead Rahal, though Luyendyk in 5th place.
So he didn't lose much. Robbie Gordon did get by on the run up the hill, and now if he can hold off Rahal and then get on his way again, and Bozell is back in the picture up in 7th place.
So the top of the order, still Tracy, followed by Mansell, followed by Andretti, then Robbie Gordon, Ari Luyendyk, then Bobby Rahal in 6th, and here is Raul Boesel in 7th. No one chasing Bozell. Will continue to watch this telemetry feed from that car.
17 consecutive finishes in the points. Bozell had very reliable, phenomenal run until his crash last weekend, or the last race at New Hampshire. Bozell, one of the drivers that enjoys the comfort of knowing he has a 3-year contract already signed and in his back pocket with Dick Simon to drive this Duracell car for the next 3 seasons.
Bozell moving to stretch up. We take a look at Rahal, who is in pursuit of Luyendyk. There's Luyendyk just ahead as they slam down toward Canada Corner. We'll take a lap with him and listen.
Third gear. Third gear corner here.
Battle for 5th developing between Rahal and Luyendyk.
You can hear he just uses 5 forward gears. There are 6 available. You don't have to use them because they're available. 5 is the norm for the front runners here. He's catching Luyendyk. Down through the trees into one of the heaviest braking zones. Turn 5 all the way down to 2nd gear.
Rahal drives corner 5 well and is able to close right up on Luyendyk now. They're in hurry downs. Again, a downhill section.
Under braking and turn in, Rahal seems to be better. Here's the next slowest corner on the racetrack. Oh, he closes up on Luyendyk. Now here's the carousel. Luyendyk's loose. You can see him. The car gets away from him as he turns in and as he puts the power on. Here's this long, long, long carousel. Now here's where you hold your breath. Hold your breath and go through the kink. He's not flat. He's not flat. You can hear him just breathe, then he blasts. loose. He fights that car all the way, and that time he stuck the outside wheels off on the dirt. Now he blocks Rahal by going down on a tight inside line. He's going to have his hands full to hold Rahal off. Do we see rain?
Yeah, let's keep an eye on that, because I think before they wiped the lens clean, we were seeing rain, and one of the corner stations is in fact reporting, now they don't say rain, they say some moisture. Well, that could change the complexion of this day.
Well, some moisture is definitely rain, because unless somebody has a garden.
I don't know if that means a lot of rain or a little rain. It's not a gully washer yet.
Look at Lyondike again. The car is oversteering. Boom, sticks those wheels, rear wheels off the curb and onto the dirt.
Now they've upgraded it. They're reporting that there is rain in the carousel. So they'll make this turn, make another left, run downhill, and then they'll be where they are now reporting rain shower.
This is a great fight here. Great fight, Rahal and Lyondike. Lyondike has the legs on Rahal down these long straights, but when they get to the braking zones of the corners, Rahal is better.
Here comes the carousel. This is where they were reporting rain.
Oh, you can see it. See when the camera lens clears there, you can see there's moisture.
Not enough to really affect performance just yet. But under the possibility that there will be rain there, what are they doing up in the pits? Already they are beginning to think about the rain tires. They are stacked and ready to go. Though the possibility of rain is here, the rain itself has not fully arrived. The leader is still Paul Tracy. Back at Road America, where Paul Tracy is still the leader of the race, chased by Mansell. Next Saturday night, Winston Cup NASCAR racing with Bob and Benny and the gang, live from Bristol, Tennessee at 7:30 Eastern Time. Don't miss it. Paul Tracy handling traffic now.
Very thankful for the efforts of Don Andrews and the Tony Lama Sports Medicine Center. That is a traveling sports medicine center that comes to all the IndyCar races. And Tracy spent every available minute over there being tended to with physical therapy to try and help his neck and his ankles so as he could do 200 miles an hour today.
Go pit side, Gary Gerald.
Paul and Derek, you talk about that crash that Tracy experienced at the head of the show. We said there was a little device on board that measured the impact for milliseconds at 44 Gs. That's an astounding number. Here's the little black box unit that makes that measurement. GM Motorsports Technology Group has these available. Teams at their option can bolt them into the race car, into the chassis. This little device, 2.2 pounds, battery operated, about the size of a club sandwich, has sensors in here that will record impacts up to 200 Gs, and it will sense those forces as many times as 2,000 times per second. A unique little box. The engineers download the information into their computers. They take it into a laboratory. They put it now in a dummy or an impact sled situation, and they take that information. They give it to car designers for passenger cars, for race cars, to design stronger, safer vehicles for all of us in the future. Quite an innovative little box.
And how good do you think the Penske team is? Well, normally the cars are shipped over and they build them here in Reading, Pennsylvania. They're so backed up that the boys in Poole in England built this car here that Paul Tracy jumped into, and this car immediately was fast and on the pace. So even the boys in England are able to pull these cars together, and they're instantly on the pace.
Actually, a substantial rebuild, because this was the car he crashed at Indianapolis. Jan Beekes, Nigel is in.
Nigel is here. He stopped right on the marks. We checked with the crew. They're not expecting to make any changes, just 4 tires and filling up with fuel. The 4 tires are on. They're waiting for the fuel. The fuel will come slower now, Paul, because there's not as much to push it into the car. They say, no, now you've got the fuel. He's underway, lights him up, and he'll be careful of the speed on the way out. Mario is pitted behind him, just finishing his service.
16.9 seconds for Nigel Mansell in and out. He has been very careful. You see the rest of the group coming in. Bobby Rahal came in a lap ahead of everyone else. And here, as Mansell moves back up to speed, the rest of the field, Ari Lyondike and company, are coming down again. But remember, they are running a lap out of sequence, and Raul Boesel is about 8 laps out of the sequence.
Now, the winner of this race may hinge on Paul Tracy's pit stop. We'll be able to follow it, but he needs to get in get serviced, and get out quick enough to hang on to that lead. Mansell is hoping and gambling that he has problems.
Paul Tracy came across the line with 20.2 seconds in terms of lead over Nigel Mansell at the last passing at the start-finish line. Time by the EBS system. You know, they talk about these speed limits in the pits. They use radar guns. They have a truly sophisticated system in EDS. I don't know why they don't use it, Dirk.
Well, anything that may get rid of a gray area, I'm all for.
Gary Gerald waits for the arrival of the race leader, Paul Tracy.
Interesting to watch the other teams go by being cautious. Mansell went by us. It seemed like he was crawling to stay under that 80-mile-per-hour limit. It's all for safety. Car smoking on the front straightaway. Tracy comes into the pits now. A lot of brake dust as they pull the wheels off. That's not unexpected. Topping off with that precious fuel. Boy, has this young race driver matured, and I'm so impressed with his performance, even though he's not 100% today. Oh, the engine bobbles. Now it catches. A second or so lost, 15.6 in our clocks here, and a little slow on the get out.
He lights the tires for a second, then watches his speed. Now we take a look at Mansell.
Yeah, you see, he's not close enough. Oh, Tracy's almost off the racetrack. Look at this, on cold tires, goes into turn one, way out of the racing groove, off into the gray area. But Mansell, we saw from that boxed picture, is the full length of the straight behind. But Guerrero's in trouble.
As Tracy came out, you saw Roberto Guerrero there. Here comes Raul Boesel in as he comes back into the sequence of the pit stops. All of them refueling now for the end of the race. This stop coming on the 35th lap for Raul Boesel, 50 laps of scheduled distance. Tracy apparently cautioned by those tires. Were cold when he came out. They are not allowed to preheat the tires.
Tracy is a no-holds-barred driver. Cold tires, warm tires, he gives everything. Look at the traffic jam here now into turn one.
Ari Luyendyk, who went into the pits in second place, came roaring out, trying to get the best of Ray Hall and Gordon and the group coming around. We go back to the front of the field. Paul Tracy now up to full speed.
He says he goes well when he's sick. Many of his good performances this year have come when he's either been off color or he's had an injury. So he said that may be a good omen for him this afternoon. Even though his neck muscles and his ankles were very sore, it's amazing when a driver gets in, he gets warmed up, and that adrenaline starts to rush around his body. Suddenly, you don't really feel the pain.
Well, and Paul Tracy with an assignment that I'm sure suits him, as his job is to be the rabbit for Nigel Mansell. Now, if the championship were to end at this moment, well, this is the way it would end in terms of points. Of course, it's a long way to the end of the season yet, but Mansell's still holding his rather commanding lead in the points championship. Though still, here we are on a road course. Mansell's not led a lap here today, not performing the way we would expect on a road course, but the reverse, he performs very well on the ovals. At the Texaco Havoline 200, the order goes back static once again with Paul Tracy leading Nigel Mansell and Mario Andretti. But look on the front of Ray Hall's car. We talked about the potential of rain earlier. Well, that is some moisture on the lens. Still not enough to get them over to the rain tires, but certainly enough to give them that consideration. There's Paul Tracy. Here's Nigel Mansell in second place. Mario Andretti, good run, runs third. Robbie Gordon and Bobby Rahal are in a battle right now for fourth place. And running in sixth place is Ari Luyendyk. We'll continue to watch this battle as that's Robbie Gordon that sits just ahead. And this track has to be getting a little bit slicker as this water comes down on what oil may have been laid down. Look at Gordon as he comes off the edge of the track. Rahal takes advantage of it and moves past. The Havoline race recap. You take a look at that as Rahal climbs the hill all by himself. Gordon now trying to catch up just behind him. Those cars out of the race. Again, a good medical report on Fernandez.
Well, you had only just said how slick this racetrack must be going. Then a second later, we see Robbie Gordon, his hands full as he fought that car off the racetrack and luckily only lost that one position.
Christian Danner right behind as they come down the hill just behind Robbie Buell.
So So Robbie Gordon now has to chase again after that terrible first pit stop. He dropped all the way back to 14th position, climbed his way back to 4th. Now he loses that to Rahal. Look, he's sideways again, absolutely driving the wheels off this A.J. Foyt car.
I think it probably just had to drive Gordon nuts to have a little accident like that. Look at the back of the car as it begins to show some vapor, either oil or down in that section. Could be something off the gearbox.
And that could be the moisture that we saw on Rahal's camera lens.
Very easily
instead of actually being rain, although it is very, very dark looking out from our commentary box here.
In a moment here, that could also have been what caused Gordon to spin if that got under his tires.
He's slow. He's running slowly. He's definitely looked running slowly to me.
And something very definitely wrong at the back of the car as some sort of smoke or vapor continues to pour out.
Yeah, look at this. Rahal's pulled way, way far away now in less than half a lap.
So Robbie Gordon very definitely with a problem as here comes R.A. Lyondike as he sweeps around Raul Boisel. And that fight continues. That's a battle for 6th place. Gary Gerald, can you update the situation with Boisel?
Strategy. You were
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, we're having problems in and out. Now we've got it clearly. Dick, tell us, why was the decision made to get back in sequence rather than gamble for a yellow?
Well, because we only had a short amount of laps between the leaders' laps and they pitted under green as well. So we decided to pit under the green and try to get back in the same sequence. If it goes yellow, instead of having to come in, we can close up on the leaders. And he's running extremely strong. And I do believe he could pass him if he could just close that gap.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dick.
Thank you.
I would have thought that Boisel was running on light fuel loads. The longer he could run him on a light fuel load, the car is lighter and faster before he dumps that fuel in. I would have thought that might have been a better decision. But hey, I'm not running the team.
Interesting strategy by Dick Simon, the car owner. Boisel runs in 7th place as now he comes alongside Lyondike and takes 6th away from Lyondike. Robbie Gordon sits just ahead in 5th as Boisel now moving up through this field.
And he is running well. Lots of fuel in that car, but he's back on sequence. Boisel, the next man is Gordon. Gordon seems to have got everything together again, but Rahal, look how far ahead. You don't even see him now on the picture.
But they are in Gordon's pit. The A.J. Foyt team is prepared for Robbie Gordon to make a stop. So two-way communications, there they are, going back and forth between the pit, and they're going to have to take a look under the cowling at the back of that car to determine what that display of vapor is that continues even at this moment as Boisel now closes in.
Two Ford engine cars, 193 miles an hour we saw Boisel do earlier, into the braking zone. He's not close enough here. He's not close enough. This is Canada corner, and then the uphill run under that very difficult left-hander under the bridge.
And final turn ahead. We'll see if Robbie Gordon, he comes offline. Now will he sweep across and head for the pits? No.
Gordon wasn't quick through that corner. Did you see the line he took? He was wide going in. He stayed wide, and he never got the power on and gave Boisel a great run. Now Boisel surely will come down the inside here. This is for position. Oh, he doesn't make it. He doesn't make it. Gordon brakes later and doesn't allow him to get through.
Now a little bit of flame showing off of the left bank of that engine when he gets off of the throttle. Keep an eye on the back of Robbie Gordon's car. Lyondike closes now on Boisel. There comes Fittipaldi after his stop and go.
It's a long, long way to go to catch Nigel Mansell or even Paul Tracy, but Mansell's the one he needs to catch to get into the championship fight.
Robbie Gordon continues to stay on the race course and stay in the fight with Paul Tracy, the leader, and 39 laps complete. Raul Boisel on a charge with Robbie Gordon. He's tried this a number of times in the past couple of laps. This time heading for the first turn. He moves to the inside. Gordon holds on, but Boisel has just enough room to get past.
And Gordon picked up the position late there.
Leader of the race, Paul Tracy. He comes up, threading his way through traffic, in this case, Hiro Matsushita. Paul Tracy is 18 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell. The top of the order has not changed during the run of this race, save for the moments in and out of the pits. Tracy, Mansell, Andretti, the top three. Then Bobby Rahal. and Robbie Gordon. Raul Boisel in 6th. Lyondike 7th. 8th is Fittipaldi. 9th is Eddie Cheever. Scott Goodyear is 10th. In 11th is Scott Brayton, followed by Teo Fabi. 13th is Mike Braw. Then Willie T. Rift and Robbie Buell in 15th. 16th is Christian Danner. Olivier Griard is 17th. In 18th is Hiro Matsushita, followed by Buddy Lazier in 19th and Ross Bentley in 20th. Roberto Guerrero out of his car.
Has he lost something?
And a pedestrian heading back, trying to find his way back into the pit area. He had an engine problem, but this track is so big he may never find his way back to the pit.
If only Paul Tracy had not made the mistake in Phoenix, he could have a full race wins, number of points now, and if he didn't have his incident at Milwaukee, he may be a very serious challenger to Nigel Mansell's championship right now. But at the moment, it's Emerson that needs more points if he's to have a chance.
And he is caught up in the back of this battle for 6th place. 6th currently occupied by Robbie Gordon. Then Lyondike, and then, of course, Emerson Fittipaldi. Lap leaders of the day. Only Ari Lyondike replacing Tracy for a lap there while Tracy goes in, replenishes fuel and tires, and head out. Let's get an update on Robbie from Jan Beekes.
Well, guys, it turns out that you hit it right on the nose when you saw that spray coming out of the car. As Robbie Gordon went by the start-finish line or by his pits here, the telemetry is reading that it is the water temperature that's coming up. At first, they thought that they had a tire going down. They've laid out twice for pit stops. Now they're just waiting for Robbie to see if he has to come in, if the tire temperature, or I should say the water temperature, comes up too high. They're also right now having discussions with IndyCar because they've seen the spray. They want him to come in and get that checked.
Reports of rain have gone away from the race course for the moment, so any moisture is going to come from the back of the 14 car. Ari Lyondike set up looking for an opportunity. Of course, if there's no water at all in that engine, Ari Lyondike could get a face full of engine all of a sudden as well. 42 laps complete. 50 laps of scheduled distance. Tracy still in front. Andretti has been in 3rd right from the green flag. He is 8 seconds behind Nigel Mansell, but he is certainly capable of closing that distance. And remember, this race does tend to run very tight right at the finish. Paul Tracy leads it, followed by Nigel Mansell. In that battle involving Robbie Gordon and Ari Lyondike, well, Lyondike was staying at the back of Gordon's car and was in fact able to get fast. 7 laps to go. 7 very long laps, 28 miles.
28 miles. This team, Newman Haas, did some good testing at Mid-Ohio and Nazareth. Mario came here feeling very good about this car and in fact said it's got good grip all weekend. He's had very little to complain about.
Robbie Gordon finally makes it into the pits, Jan.
Robbie Gordon is getting out of the car very quickly, Paul. Probably that means that he has a bit of that moisture that comes into the car. In other words, when they have an engine problem, especially a water-related problem, that hot water comes right into the car. You would almost swear this car is on fire. He just flew out of that car. What happens, Paul? It runs right down underneath the seat. Motor finally let go for Gordon.
Not a happy guy, Robbie Gordon, who may have gotten a hot seat. This was Ari Lyondike as he came past him, the ailing car at that time of Robbie Gordon. Robbie all the way off the race course, somewhat forced off. Fittipaldi comes around 2, continues his pursuit of Lyondike. And now he's sitting right at the rear wing of Lyondike. And this battle continues for 6th.
Robbie Gordon was absolutely furious there with somebody or something. He took his gloves off, threw it at the scoring stand. He's absolutely furious. He fought so hard to get back to that 4th place. Now Lyondike has it, and Emerson wants it.
Well, he was very definitely in the middle of the fight throughout the day. Spectacular run for Robbie. Too bad it has ended prematurely. Now Fittipaldi and Lyondike battle. This is the only fight on the circuit. It remains static in front of this battle for 6th.
Lyondike has struggled so often this year with this car. Very unusual. Remember what happened in New Hampshire? He retired because the car handled so badly. It was downright dangerous to be out there with everybody else running so fast. He had to retire the car. So going a lot better this weekend than he has of late.
So there is Fittipaldi in his pursuit of Lyondike, though broken off for the moment. Let's go pit side. Jan Beekes is with Robbie.
Robbie, you came out of that car really really quick. Did you get a hot seat there? That water come in on you?
Yeah, the water got real hot, and I really don't know what's wrong. You know, the motor just finally started giving up because we had a good car. We were running fourth, and then we were pulling Ray Hall on the straights, and all of a sudden he started catching me a bunch on the straights.
Now, you put a couple wheels off earlier. Now, sometimes that can throw a rock through. Think that could be a problem?
No, that was on the first lap that I put a wheel off, so you know, that's definitely not the problem. We didn't have a water pressure problem. We just had an oil temp problem.
Day over early for Robbie Gordon. Paul?
Back looking at third place now, Mario Andretti just coming around. Hiro Matsushita running alone on the course. 7 seconds, though, behind Mansell. So he is closing in on Mansell. Bobby Rahal is running in fourth place. He's a full 20 seconds back from Mario Andretti. So nothing changes at the top of the order. Paul Tracy is still the leader, followed by Mansell and his teammate Andretti. Back at Road America, Eddie Cheever, the 90 car, being chased by Scott Goodyear. A battle for 8th place. This battle just developing, and the only battle on the circuit.
Similar cars, Lola's with Ford engines. Cheever, of course, has so little, in fact, virtually no experience in this type of car. This was the car that was run by Lynn St. James earlier.
Mike Groff off the track. He was having such a good run.
Well, he was having a good run. The only way to gauge it is you look at the speed of him versus Rahal, his team leader. And Groff had done a lap of 129.5, and Rahal only 129.9. Oh, look at Mario.
Mario slows on the main stretch. Seems to come back to speed. But no, that engine is done for the day. Does this predict something for Mansell? Andretti slowing on the main stretch, continues past the pit exit, and now comes back up to speed. What's that all about?
No, he's not up to speed. Oh, Buddy Lazier is off. He's on the dirt. Better bring half of it back onto the racetrack again. That's all. That's the last corner. But Mario is in trouble, and he has 4 long, slow miles before he can get back. Look at this. The invisible car is out.
We have some rain. They said that there was a shower moving back into the area. So moisture coming back in, rain coming back in, and maybe it's just suddenly getting a little slick on all of them.
Well, we've seen cars run out of fuel many times here, but I wouldn't speculate as to what that was.
Yeah, that wouldn't account for
lots of sudden action. No, it wouldn't.
So Mario Andretti gives up third place for the first time today as he slows on the main stretch. That brings Bobby Rahal up into third, followed by Raul Boisel. And they get together. Cheever and Goodyear in their fight get together.
Well, we did finally see another piece of contact. Cheever did make contact earlier, got away with it when he hit Guerrero, and that was the braking area for turn 5. Both cars fighting over the same piece of road, and Cheever comes off the worst. Oh, look at Goodyear, wants everything up. Oh, he's got a puncture. The left rear is punctured on Scott Goodyear's car. Cheever's going to drive by him.
So when he got into Cheever's wing and took it off, it punctured the tire. Goodyear will have to nurse the car back to the pits. Cheever comes up alongside, gets the position as they bump. And both cars are late.
Oh, look at this. Goodyear, well, he will be lucky to make it all the way back. Reminds you of Damon Hill at the German Grand Prix when the tire shreds. He will be lucky to make it all the way back without doing too much damage to that car.
A close competition for 8th place. And certainly Scott Goodyear will have to be somewhat aware of doing any further damage to the car and taking it totally out of the fight.
Look at this. Look at this. They're on the grass. They're boxing. It's a boxing match. Now watch what happens here. Cheever tries to come down the inside. Oh, there's contact. Oh, one wheel. Then he takes the front wing off. And that's what punctured the left rear tire of Scott Goodyear. So both cars virtually out of contention because of that over-anxious or over-aggressive move by themselves.
But going into 5 there, Scott Goodyear was having none of that bump and run tactic as he just slammed the door across the front of Cheever. Now Emerson Fittipaldi closing up on the back end of 5th place, Ari Lyondike. Fittipaldi looking for any point that he can garner toward a potential championship. 47 laps complete, 3 to go at Road America, 12 miles.
Fittipaldi has won 3 times here in the past. The chances of him winning here are slim. The chances of him getting Lyondike's 5th place are good. And Lyondike knows that. defensive driving may have to be employed here by Luyendyk to hold off Emerson Fittipaldi. It's the Ford engine down these long straights. Sometimes, what was that, Puff?
A bit of display at the back.
Whoa,
Luyendyk's car as his tire lets go. Tire puncture there for Luyendyk. As he came through the kink, good piece of handling to get that car under control at that point. But that gives the position away to Fittipaldi, just what he needed. Now Luyendyk nurses the car back to the pits.
Well, that was obviously debris. We could speculate that was possibly debris on the racetrack that cut down Luyendyk's tire. We saw it as he went by our camera position.
Well, Paul Tracy continues to lead in the Texaco Havoline 200. We'll be back for the finish. Paul Tracy has acknowledged a white flag at the start-finish line, indicating one more lap to go. Mario Andretti made it back into the pits. They're still working on his car. Arie Luyendyk made it back into the pits. They did replace that tire, and he is back into the competition. And Scott Goodyear also made it, limping back into the pits as well. But we are on the final lap for Paul Tracy, looking for his 4th win this season. And a road course win once again. Nigel Mansell will continue in the points lead if they finish in this order, as one assumes they will. But Paul Tracy is certainly showing his power. And if he was sent out as the rabbit, he took it all the way to the checkered flag for Roger Penske.
And he is the walking wounded. Walking, not when he's in the racing car. He's been on crutches since that terrible crash on Friday here. Somebody else is off the road big time, but Paul Tracy in the car doesn't seem to have too much trouble.
No one in contest at the top of the order. Tracy followed by Mansell, followed by Rahal and Bosell. Fittipaldi picks up some good luck and moves into 5th place. He climbs the hill for the final time today in the Texaco Havoline 200. And Paul Tracy acknowledges the checker and takes the win. Watching for Nigel Mansell now. His wife happy with that one, of course. Here comes Mansell. Final set of corners. Already he waves at the workers of one of the corner stations. Not in contest with anyone. He climbs the hill. The checkered flag waits for Nigel Mansell, who will continue his point lead by 31 PPG points over Emerson Fittipaldi.
He suspected going into this race that it would be very, very difficult to beat Paul Tracy in that Penske, so he had to go into point scoring mode because this championship is so important to him.
And here comes Bobby Rahal, who finishes in 3rd place. A splendid day for Rahal. His up and down season, battling, trying to get his new car going. Now he's in the lowland doing well. Let's go to Gary.
And here's Roger Penske. 3 days in Germany. You get back late last night, early this morning. You see Paul Tracy drive to victory. Tell us about the maturation of this young man that you've had your eye on.
Well, I think it was a great job, Jerry. You know, he had the accident. I wasn't here on Friday, but he came back, jumped in the backup car, and was able to really command it all through the weekend. I guess it showed that our cars can run on long straightaways with the Chevy motors, which is I'm glad to see, and Paul did an outstanding job.
And it really tightens things up a little bit here in this championship chase, doesn't it?
Well, it's going to be down to who finishes. I think that's one of the things that Emerson and Paul both have to do is finish every one of these races, so it's anybody's race right now. But again, we still got to catch Mansell.
Congratulations, Roger.
Thanks.
On the way to victory lane, Paul.
6th win this season for the Penske team, 77th career victory for IndyCar Racing's most successful team, Penske Racing. Well, Paul Tracy scores his 4th IndyCar victory, all on road courses. This is his 1st win on a natural terrain road course at the beautiful Road America. Well, Paul Tracy taking the victory for Roger Penske. Let's go to Gary.
Well, the unbuckling process begins down here. They unwind some tape, they disconnect some hoses, and Paul Tracy, it's going to be interesting to see just how physically he's feeling because of that terrific crash that he endured on Friday morning. But does he get the job done? He kind of gingerly lifting himself up here now, Paul, and the crew's here to help him out of the car. He was on crutches for about 36 hours or so. He's going to sit here on the suspension. We'll all try to gather our collective breaths, and we'll reach down here, and as he peels off the gloves and as soon as that helmet comes off, we'll get some comments here from Paul Tracy. Victory number 4 this season, and perhaps under the toughest of conditions. Paul, congratulations. Tell us, how tough was it today for you, because we know you were hurting.
Well, it was pretty tough. It was a pretty long race, and I had a good just try to keep a good consistent pace, and I have my foot wrapped up and the circulation's cut off, so I want to get this bandage off as soon as I can.
They're working down here in this right ankle where there's bruises, and they're going to cut through the tape right now. How difficult was it to brake and to work on the throttle under these conditions?
It was getting pretty tough near the end. My foot had gone to sleep, so it was real tender on the ball of my foot, but you know, we just had it. We built up a big lead because of the pit stops, and we were able to get in and out quick. And I think that's what I was able to just take it easy the last 10 or 12 laps and just really just coast along.
Well, you astounded your crew by getting the pole. You've astounded us all with this performance. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, Jan? I'm sorry, we'll go back to Paul.
And Paul Tracy into the Yamaha winner's circle. We continue talking with the top finishers. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Hi, we're standing by with Nigel Mansell. Second place for you today, Nigel. A very good run. He gets the congratulations from Paul Newman. Not quite enough, though. Paul Tracy was really running like a rabbit.
Yeah, I mean, the Penske car was just working fabulous today. You could see on the opening lap. He just shut away, didn't he, and had his own race. He drove great. I drove as hard as I could, and I'm just thrilled that a Ford-powered Lola with the great sponsors that we have will come in second, because second place, 18 points, is very valuable and it adds to our tally, and I'm just thinking of the championship. But Penske's are going to be tough to try and beat for the end of the year.
Nigel Mansell happy with his point lead for the moment. Paul?
And continues to be dominant. Inventive people here in the Indy cars, aren't they? Yep, that's the one that wins. You've got it. More from Road America in just a moment.